Good afternoon and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the WLPGA webinar, which is a comprehensive overview of the new WLPGA campaign, Cooking for Life. My name is Alison Abbott, and it's really my pleasure to open this webinar. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us, and we're sure that you'll have an interesting discussion. Now, the format of the webinar is that I'll shortly hand you over to Michael Kelly, and he'll talk about the campaign, and following his presentation there'll be a question and answer session. However, if you have any specific questions as he's speaking, just please feel free to ask them and we'll do our best to answer them. If you want to ask a question, you can do this in two ways, but we really recommend the first way. What we ask you to do is on the little dashboard to your right, there's a little hand icon, and if you click on that, it will raise your hand. We'll then unmute you, and you can ask your question. You can also type it in the little questions box, but we prefer if you actually ask them, and then we can speak to you. The webinar should last approximately 45 minutes, so now I'd like to hand you over to Michael to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And good afternoon, everyone. Looking at the names on the list, I know that I know some of you and some of you I don't know. So to those of you I haven't met yet, I'd like to say it's nice to meet you. Today we'll be talking about the WLPGA Cooking for Life campaign, which we had a soft launch, what communications specialists refer to as a soft launch, in Rio de Janeiro on the 18th of June. And this was during the United Nations Commission's on Sustainable Development's Rio Plus 20 meetings. For those of you who aren't familiar with this series of meetings, it was, as the name indicates, launched 20 years ago to highlight sustainable development as an issue and to look at different ways of pursuing sustainable development goals. The official launch, as opposed to the soft launch, which took place in June, will take place this month, or next month, I should say, on the 12th of September during the WLPGA Annual Forum, which is being held this year in Bali. And the launch will be presided over by myself, as well as Kurt Smith, who is the world's premier academic voice in indoor air pollution issues. And that's what we're trying to highlight with Cooking for Life, is this issue of indoor air pollution, which comes from people using what we call traditional fuels, which are often biomass, wood, charcoal, dung, and other kinds of products. And I want to kick off this presentation by starting with an image, because I think images are actually quite powerful in driving home a point. And this image is a photograph I took myself outside of Dili in East Timor. Up until recently, up until last July, East Timor was the newest country in the world, and last July actually South Sudan became the newest country in the world. But East Timor is an extremely poor country, and what you see in front of you represents about 6 months of economic activity for the couple in the picture. Every year, or every 6 months or so, the man has to walk into the woods further and further each time, looking for wood, bringing it back down where his wife will chop it into smaller sizes, dry it, and then put it in bundles and sell it by the side of the road. As I mentioned, East Timor is quite a poor place. Roughly 90% of the population there uses some form of biomass to cook on. And it's astonishing if you think about it, because East Timor is less than 1 hour away by air from Darwin in Australia, which is one of the richest countries in the world. And I think this image kind of drives home what we're trying to achieve with Cooking for Life by highlighting the plight of people who are using wood or other forms of biomass and have been since essentially the beginning of time. Another issue that along with the health piece that comes along with using biomass is the environmental degradation, which takes place in East Timor, much like Haiti in this hemisphere, or in the Western Hemisphere, is suffering from massive deforestation to the point that it's one of the few countries in the world like Haiti where if you go on Google Earth and look at it, you can see that it's essentially being stripped of trees. And this is almost entirely due to people using biomass to cook with. In Haiti, the problem is so accelerated that cooking with wood or charcoal is actually more expensive than using other forms of cooking fuels, even more what we consider more expensive cooking fuels. And Haiti's reached the point where it's suffered massive, massive deforestation. And we at WLPGA have been involved in some of the projects that are being set up there to help move the population away from using biomass. We've done some back-of-the-envelope calculations, and we estimated that the total content, as far as thermal energy that is condensed inside this stack of wood, again, 6 months of economic activity, represents roughly about 4 12.5 kg cylinders of LPG. Now imagine how different these people's lives would be if they had access to LPG to cook with. How much cleaner their kitchens would be, how much more time they would have, how their eyes would burn less, how they'd cough less, and there's a good chance that they would probably live longer. And I think I want to set up our conversation using this photograph and using this image because this is what we are dealing with Cooking for Life, are the millions and millions of people around the world that deal with indoor air pollution as part of their everyday life 2-3 times a day when they have to cook. The problem overwhelmingly impacts women and it impacts children who tend to spend most of their time in kitchens. Well, we've had we jumped ahead a bit. And this issue is actually relatively ironic because I know that in the developed world we tend to look at cooking as something that's pleasurable, but for many people it is a source of illness, causing major illnesses, not only pulmonary but also in eyes, lungs. It causes low birth weights in children, and it decreases life expectancies significantly. You add to this, also the issue of what economists refer to as opportunity costs. So the amount of time that is spent looking for firewood or looking for other forms of biomass. In some parts of the world, women spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day looking for biomass, something to cook with, and this is overwhelmingly when they are attacked, when they are raped, when they get bitten by snakes. Snake bites kill a significant number of people every year. And again, it is predominantly women and children that suffer from these types of difficulties. And one thing about LPG as a solution to these problems is that it has an immediate effect, and I've seen it myself, and I'm sure many of you have as well. The moment that LPG is introduced into a community, the quality of life, particularly of the women in that community, goes up immeasurably. And it's almost always an immediate improvement in terms of health and in terms of the time that they have to devote to other issues apart from cooking and looking for firewood. Before I get into the white paper and some of the other issues that are tied to the Cooking for Life campaign, for those of you who aren't specialists in LPG, I do just want to give a quick overview as to why LPG is such an excellent solution for this particular issue. Most of us know LPG. It's a product that has been around for many, many years. In fact, we are celebrating this year, 2012, the 100-year anniversary of the first patenting of commercial propane, which was done in the United States, in the state of Pennsylvania, by a chemist named William Schelling in 1912. So we have a product that is well known, a technology that's very accessible. It requires no investment in research and development to roll out the program. The infrastructure is relatively light compared to some other forms of grid energy, and it's extremely clean. Clean enough that you can use it in your kitchen to cook while your children are sitting there, and it'll have no negative health impact at all. The particulate matters, the pollutions, the amount of particulates or other negatives that come out of using LPG is very, very low. And this is what makes it such an ideal solution, particularly for communities that are remote or have no access to grid infrastructure. And this may be true in the developing world of urban settings where populations have outgrown the infrastructure available. We see this happening in megacities around the world, and it's a trend which, according to demographics, is going to continue in the future as we go from being a rural people to being a more urbanized community. And then, of course, in rural areas which often have no access to any form of grid energy or any form of sustainable energy, LPG offers an excellent solution. So what we try to do with Cooking for Life, we're lost over here. We got a bit of a technical issue. Let me go back a bit. Yeah, there we are. What we tried to do to begin with for Cooking for Life was we put together a white paper. And we used Dan Polsky, who is a health economist from the University of Pennsylvania, to look at not only the health issues, because most people that are involved in international development, most people that have been around this issue for a while understand the health consequences of long-term exposure to indoor air pollution. Anyone who sat around a campfire for an evening can imagine what it's like to do that 2 or 3 times a day for the rest of your life. But what is little understood are the long-term economic implications of exposure to indoor air pollution. And this has to do with lost productivity, this has to do with declining health, and this has to do with premature death. And so we put a white paper together which is available on the website. We have a very rudimentary website at the moment because we're going to launch the very comprehensive website on the 12th of September at our forum in Bali. But at the page that we have now, which is just off the World Oil Gas Association page, there is a link to this white paper and you can download it. And its findings are very, very interesting. The white paper is currently in the process of being peer-reviewed in academic journals. So that we hope by the end of the year we will have a paper that has been peer-reviewed by the literature, by the academic literature, that we will be able to distribute. And we wanted to use Cooking for Life as a platform for participation in the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. Again, I should have probably explained this when I was talking about the Rio Forum, for those of you who aren't overly involved in the United Nations. The Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in 2012 declared the year to be the year of sustainable energy for all. And this is an initiative that was kicked off this year to coincide with Rio Plus 20, but will last for the rest of his mandate, or the rest of his second mandate. So we're looking at this to last approximately 5 years. And to highlight access to energy issues, whether it's for cooking, whether it's for reading, whether it's for heating or boiling water. When it comes to development, there has been a significant lack of focus on energy. In the year 2000, the United Nations launched the Millennium Development Goals, which are 9 development goals, which include things like access to clean water, prenatal care, reducing HIV infection, etc. And after a few years, it was noticed that one of the cross-cutting themes or issues that impacted all of these different Millennium Development Goals, some of which have been reached and some of which are quite far from being reached, was access to energy. Having access to some form of clean energy is a prerequisite for sustainable development, for developing a country and for improving the quality of life of the people. And Cooking for Life is a platform that we created so that the LPG industry can participate in sustainable energy for all as an initiative. And again, you'll see some of the facts that have been here, that we've put out here. The number of 2 million deaths, which comes from the World Health Organization's Fuel for Life study, which was released in 2006, we think they are going to revise that number. They're currently in the process of doing a study, and we estimate that by the end of this year, they'll have a new figure, and it'll be revised up considerably. And you see here again some other facts that we've put together regarding the use of biomass throughout the world and the amount of people that are actually impacted by exposure to indoor air pollution. Now, I think this is probably a good moment for me to stop and ask anyone if they have any questions, and if they do, to click on the small hand they see on their screen, and I'll be happy to unmute you. And you can ask whatever question you have, and then I think we're going to move into the details of Cooking for Life as an initiative, what's available, how you will be able to participate, how it will potentially impact you in the markets that you operate in. So for that moment, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. No, we don't see any. Sure, you know what? No. Okay. Well, then I'll keep moving through a couple of these facts, and then we'll get to the Cooking for Life. I think this is actually startling and something that I didn't know, and something that has been reinforced by the WHO on a number of different occasions. And one of the reasons that we wanted to stop on this slide and highlight this fact is that for years, HIV/AIDS in particular, malaria, and tuberculosis, which often comes after someone has been infected with HIV, have received a huge amount of attention in the global health community. Whereas indoor air pollution has, for centuries, for eons, for millennia, has been ignored. And it seems now that there is a move through Sustainable Energy for All and through organizations such as the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, of which the WLPG is a member, and they're an observer member of ours, to highlight this issue. And one of the tactics they've used is to get the endorsement of famous female celebrities, including Hillary Clinton, whose quote you saw earlier, Julia Roberts, the Brazilian model, Gisele Bündchen. These people have made ads and are trying to promote knowledge about this issue and the fact that this is an issue that is killing millions of people on a regular basis, more than HIV and tuberculosis, which receive significantly more attention and therefore significantly more funding. We think that the refocused attention on the issue of indoor air pollution presents the LP gas industry with a huge opportunity to get involved in this space and to quote someone a lot smarter than me, to do good while doing very well. By helping improve the quality of lives of people around the world. Okay, now we're going into the issue for Cooking for Life, and this will be more information about the actual campaign, what we're trying to achieve, and how you can participate in this campaign. Again, you can see some of these goals here, the participation in the UN's Year of Sustainable Energy for All. Again, I'd like to underline that this is an initiative that will continue for maybe up to 4 or 5 years, and which has received a significant amount of attention within the United Nations this year. And what we're trying to achieve is a process of education. When I first started working in the LPG industry and with development agencies, I was surprised at how little was known and understood about the benefits of LPG in the context of development. And I think that's something that we as an industry haven't been very effective in communicating. We have a product which is extremely effective in improving the quality of life of users, reducing the incidence of premature death through exposure to indoor air pollution, and promoting sustainable development with minimal investment in infrastructure, and with a safety record which is very, very, very good and very positive. And this is something that we as an industry haven't necessarily communicated on, and we haven't necessarily focused on educating key decision makers, whether they're in political structures and ministries of development, of health, of energy, or decision makers in development institutions, in the NGO community, in multilateral agencies. There's a lot of work we can do in communicating the benefits of our product that we haven't done in the past, and Cooking for Life is trying to address that. And we're targeting key decision makers first as to the possibilities, the benefits of using LPG, what is required to set up an LPG industry or to ensure that an LPG industry, which is rudimentary and or relatively primitive, is well run, well managed, safe, and beneficial for those who need it most. And this can be in a rural context, in an urban context, or in a peri-urban context. Our targets, as I mentioned before, are the stakeholders that would be making decisions in this, but we would also have a piece in the future that would be trying to educate end users. We often face the issue that end users, I'm sure you've come across this, are afraid. People are sometimes afraid of having a cylinder in their home. I think it's something that's going to blow up. So there's a process of education on safety issues. There's a process of education at a policy level as well that Cooking for Life is trying to accomplish. And we're going to provide a number of different items. Again, this will all be launched on September 12th in Bali. But we want to provide tools that will help bring coherence to the message and to the talking points that the LPG industry has regarding this issue, not only about ourselves and the benefits of our product, but also on the issue of indoor air pollution. One of the characteristics of this industry, and I go back to the point I made about the industry existing around the world and operating in every single country in the world, is that it makes the industry inherently fragmented. And so trying to bring some consistency and some coherence to the message and to what we're trying to communicate is an extremely important part of what we're trying to do here. Because if we can talk about this issue and about the benefits of our product as an industry, it will give us a lot more force and a lot more strength. And you can see some of the different elements that we're going to include as part of that campaign. You also see some of the things here on this slide that will be available on the website in the toolkit. And this will be available, the toolkit will be available only to WLPGA members, right? But a lot of the information will be available to everyone, whether you're a WLPGA member or not. And I would encourage you, particularly if you represent an NGO, to become an observer member. Companies have to join the WLPGA as paying members, and they should, because we provide excellent benefits. But if you're an NGO, or if you're in a development agency, or if you represent an academic institution, or even a regulatory body, or something in the public sphere, you're welcome to join WLPGA as an observer member, with all the rights of a member, except for voting rights. And I think that's important to point out, because I know that there are a lot of people here from the nonprofit community that are taking place in this call today. All of this material that we will provide, which is modeled after the Exceptional Energy website, which I encourage you to visit if you have not been there, www.exceptionalenergy.com. It's been translated into 8 languages now. And it has a certain look and feel that Cooking for Life will fold into. And we want to try and provide the same kind of benefits that we do with Exceptional Energy. The website will be launched again on the 12th. It will be much more comprehensive than what we have now. And there will be access to a huge amount of information with a strong focus on social media, which we feel is an effective way to communicate in this space about what we're trying to achieve with this platform. And how can you get involved? Clearly, if you're a WPGA member and you have markets and audiences in the developing world, or at least developed countries, that have communities of people that could benefit from switching to LPG, or that are still using biomass, large amounts of biomass in one form or the other, using Cooking for Life and working with us and working with the messaging and the talking points that we will create with this will help you educate the policymakers in those communities as to the benefits of helping to incentivize LPG markets and ensuring that those markets are well-disciplined, well-run, and safe. Part of this process will be not only in creating awareness and education about the dangers of indoor air pollution. I think a lot of that is inherent. A lot of people understand that. but also in educating people that LP gas is one of the solutions which is available, which is a proven mature technology, and which is relatively easy to roll out in a quick manner. I should also point out that we at WLPGA do not believe, and I think most of our industry members agree with us, that LPG is the only solution to this problem. We understand that in certain contexts there may be other solutions for particular communities. But we do feel strongly that often LPG is one of the best solutions available when dealing with the issue of indoor air pollution, when dealing with the issue of deforestation, desertification, and other types of environmental problems. And I should have mentioned in the slide before, actually, I kind of skipped over it, this issue of pilot programs. We are looking for the potential of launching pilot programs. We've been in touch with our Nigerian colleagues. We've been in touch with our colleagues in the Philippines through the Asian Development Bank, looking at programs where WLPGA, working with the private sector organization or with a development agency, can go into a community, launch a pilot program, and see what the learnings are and what the potential is for replication and for scalability. If we can drive these programs, increase their size, and see if they're successful in one cultural context, if they could be successful in other cultural contexts. And as part of that, there will be a campaign that will include a lot of time spent with the media, particularly the media that focuses on development issues. We've created a lot of what communications people call communications collateral. So a lot of elements and materials that are available not only for our members, but for those interested in the issue. And we will have a comprehensive campaign that will participate in development-related fora, conferences, congresses, those sort of things. And again, all of this is part of the drumbeat of trying to create awareness of the issue and have LPG as a potential solution to that issue. And finally, just to bear in mind, the official launch on the 12th of September, after which the website will be live. And keep an eye out for our major communications campaign. And I would encourage everyone on this call, if you have questions, if you want more information, to feel free to contact myself or to contact Allison or anyone at the WLPGA. We have an opportunity to really improve the quality of life of a number of people around the world. And I'll go back to a point I made, a story I had in a discussion with a high-level representative from the World Bank, and this was in Washington, D.C. a few months ago. This gentleman is an Indian gentleman, and he told me we were having a discussion about Cooking for Life and how the World Bank may cooperate with us. And he told us a story about when he was a young man and his family in Kerala in the south of India had saved and scrimped and saved to get their first cylinder of LPG. And when it came into the home, they were all very proud of the fact that they had managed to get this cylinder and how it changed their life and how it improved the quality of life of his mother. And I've heard those kind of stories over and over again since I've been working in the LPG industry. And I think we have an opportunity that we maybe haven't seized in the past. We're trying to create a platform for our industry to embrace that opportunity. And I think as an industry, if we really focus on the possibilities of these emerging markets, many of which are experiencing sustained economic expansion and growth for the first time in their histories, we will not only have the possibility of getting in grassroots markets that will continue growing, but of also having a positive impact on the lives of millions of people. And that's not a bad position to be in, I think. I will leave you, again, with this image, because I think this really drives home the issue that we're trying to discuss in one single photograph. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. So before I sign off and ask Allison to wrap up, I would very much like a question or two. If any of you feel like clicking your hand and letting us know that you have a question. Andrew? Oh, hold on. That's all I do.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we've unmuted you, Andrew.
Oh, fine, thanks.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me now?
We can.
You can?
Yes.
Okay.
We can, yes.
Okay. Looking at the projects, Michael, there will be some companies in Bali. By the way, it's a very good, clear presentation. After seeing that, I can imagine that some countries will want to go away and do something or propose something quite shortly. Should we maybe give guidelines about what kind of projects and examples that would be applicable for this campaign, and if they are applicable for this campaign, what support the company could expect from the WLPGA?
Yeah, Andrew, that's actually a really insightful question, and I think that that's something that we can maybe focus on between here and Bali, and that is creating some kind of guidelines for project proposals. And then we would also have to think about what kind of support WLPGA is prepared to offer in the first instance and as the project evolves. I think that's a very good point that you made, and it's something that can help us prepare so that once we have the official launch, if we do get proposals, we're not floundering. We know exactly what the next kind of steps will be. And I would encourage anyone on the call that if you have ideas for this, if you've worked in the development space in the past, or you've set up an LPG industry or an LPG company in a developing world market, and you have ideas as to what are the sort of guidelines and parameters we should look for, to please send those to us. We would be happy to have them, and it'll help us inform and create a package which makes sense that we can roll out with the launch in Bali. Any other questions? Oh, we have one, okay. Habib, we can hear you. Right?
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, you're coming through
Can
very
you hear
garbled.
me?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to have engineer Mrs. Bahijat Abubakar speak with you. She's the coordinator of Renewable Energy Program in Nigeria, and she's coordinating the Rural Women Energy Security Scheme. We're rolling out in a couple of weeks, and Michael thought it would be a good idea to participate in this, and she's here right now.
Hi.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. My name is Mrs. Abubakar, and on behalf of Nigeria, we're joining in. We have a Rural Women and Energy Access Scheme that is coming up, and it's an annual event. This year, we're rolling out the National Clean Cooking Scheme. And this, Mr. Habib told me, and I became really interested. I'd like to know how WLPGA can participate in Nigeria's National Clean Cooking Scheme. And also, I'd like to know what guidance you can give to us on how the security of supply is guaranteed, like the model you have in Brazil. We'd like to actually have a peer-to-peer learning experience with our colleagues from other parts of the world. So as we roll out this National Clean Cooking Scheme, we have experiences to draw from. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I think we have a number of extremely active members in Nigeria. in Nigeria, and we anticipate that that's a market that's going to experience significant growth for our product in the future. You asked if we could participate, if we could be involved in the work that you're doing, and we would welcome proposals from your organization, and then we would have to evaluate those proposals, and we would probably want to also have a discussion with our members in Nigeria to see how it fits in the strategies of what they're doing. I think another thing that you could think about doing is perhaps joining WLPGA as an observer member, and that would give you access to information about other developing world countries that have rolled out and grown functioning, safe, and disciplined LPG markets. You mentioned Brazil. It was quite garbled when you were speaking, but I think Brazil serves as an excellent example of how to grow an LPG market that has 95% penetration in Brazil. 95% of Brazilians use LPG to cook on, and it was a policy that was put into place very consciously by Brazilian governments in the past to encourage the use of LPG and to discourage the use of other types of combustibles, especially wood. And the upshot is they have a very modern, very dynamic, very safe industry that in many ways is a world leader. And one of the roles that WLPGA plays is of taking models of programs or innovations and seeing how they work in the context where they were innovated, where they were created, and seeing if those can be moved and used in other countries. And that's certainly something that we could help you with, and would be happy to help you with. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, well, if not, then all that's left for me to do is to thank you very much for your time and to encourage you again to contact me directly if you have any questions or comments or follow-ups, or anyone at the WLPGA, and to ask that you continue watching the space on Cooking for Life. We're going to be doing a lot of interesting things, and we'd like to have your participation. Let me end by handing over to Allison, and thank you all once again.
Thank you, Michael. I hope you found that interesting and informative. I'm sure you'll agree that it's a very compelling campaign, and we're very excited to roll this out under the umbrella of exceptional energy. Just reiterate what Michael said. If anyone thinks of any questions, just please send us an email. And all that is left for me to say is we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in Bali in 2 weeks. And thank you again.